Hello everyone, welcome to the WASABI Aquarium channel. In this video, I will cover how to revive your dying background plants. If you have a planted aquarium, you have probably experienced this before. Or in the beginning, your plants are doing so well and are growing like crazy. It feels like no matter how much you trim the tank, it keeps growing back beautifully. I think we can all agree that this is a nice problem to have. However, over time those thriving plants you had may have stopped growing so well. From just a quick look, you might notice that your plants are not developing properly, or that the plant is losing color. That is something that can happen to your tank, and it can be somewhat normal. So for this video, I will go over what to do when your background plants are doing poorly, including how to revive your background plants back to their original beauty. To start, what are some common symptoms for dying background plants? One symptom is that you don't see any new growth after trimming, or if you do see new growth, that it is tiny and thin. The next one is the stem. More specifically, one symptom is a very thin stem. In the beginning, your plants probably grew with nice, thick stems. But over time, you may have noticed the stems getting thinner and thinner. The last symptom is about the center to lower areas of the stem. It is when all of the leaves are growing only at the top of the plant and all of the leaves below that have fallen off, or only the stem is left over. If you are currently dealing with any of these three symptoms, I think this video will be very helpful to you. You may be asking, what causes these symptoms to appear? There are three reasons why these symptoms may appear. The first reason why is that you are using old soil. To be more specific, it's that you have soil that is crumbling away and turning into mud. When this happens, fresh oxygen is unable to enter the soil, which creates anaerobic conditions, meaning no oxygen. Anaerobic conditions make aquatic plant roots have a tough time surviving, which leads to unhappy plants. The second reason why is because your plants got uprooted. In the beginning, plants stay rooted, but as the plants grew, it got top-heavy and now wants to uproot itself. When this happens, it's probably rooted in the soil somehow, but the majority of the plant is uprooted. If aquatic plants stay like that for too long, it is guaranteed for the plant to start looking unhealthy. The last reason why is from changes in water conditions. Fresh aquarium soil has the ability to make the water soft and slightly acidic, which is perfect for plants. Over time, as the soil gets older, its ability to make the water soft and slightly acidic gets weaker and weaker. When that happens, the water slowly but surely turns alkaline. Now, because the majority of plants prefer soft and slightly acidic water, plants struggle in alkaline tanks. The water condition, along with the other two reasons, is thought to be why those common symptoms appear. Later in the video, I will get to the specific ways to revive your plants. But before that, I want you to be sure that you are adding liquid fertilizers to your aquarium every day as needed. A lack of liquid fertilization can be the cause of the previously mentioned symptoms of dying plants. So before you go following the steps I will be teaching, first solve your liquid fertilizer routine before moving on. If you are not fertilizing enough, it's faster to revive your plants by fertilizing than following these steps. The people who are going to get the most out of this video are the people who do properly fertilize, but the plants in their tanks are still struggling. This video was designed for this group of people, so I ask that you please fertilize properly if you aren't already. If you are someone who does not know how to use fertilizers, or when to use them, here on the WASABI YouTube channel, I have already made a video all about fertilizers and how to use them. So if you are that person, check out that video first, you will have an easier time understanding everything else. Now, let's move on to how to revive your dying background plants. One of the examples for this video will be this setup, which indeed does have struggling background plants. If you look at only the tops, you will see that they look great, nothing wrong at all. It may be hard to tell, but if we move down a bit, including the Slodoesia in the front, you can see it with the green Rotala and the Scrophulariaceae the most. The bottom parts of the stems have lost all of their leaves. This is also somewhat recently after a trim, but still, the new growth is very poor. When your plants start to look like this, I think it's best to start moving towards making your plants look their best. Now, let's move on to the main event. For this section, this particular tank will be an example. This one is different from the previous. As you can see from this footage, the background plants have weakened so much that it was easy to pull out. In terms of steps, the first step is to remove the weakened plants. If you didn't know, unhealthy plants have a very weak root system, which makes them easy to uproot by hand. As you can see, the trick is to pull out the plants from the lower parts with your hand. For video purposes, I have the water level very high, but when you do this at home, I recommend lowering your water level. And just like that, step 1, remove your weakened plants, is done. This step is necessary for background plants in particular, because the number of times you will trim them is massive. But every time you do a trim, you do damage the plants. It can be a hassle, but for long-term maintenance, it is best to do this when the plants are starting to weaken. But another way, if you care for your tank properly, background plants will last a long time, so don't worry. Now, let's move on to step 2. For step 2, you will be siphoning water, but while you do that, take a close look at your soil. While you siphon, look at the surface of the soil. If the soil is turning to mud, or the soil pellets look crushed, it will be necessary to siphon out that bad soil while you take out water. For this aquarium, the soil still looked intact, so I only took out the surface layer. But if the soil broke down, you will have to siphon out a lot of material. For older aquariums that have been set up for a long time, I highly suggest you take out a lot of soil. The next step is to add fresh, new soil to replace the soil you siphoned out. During this step, if possible, I recommend adding as much extra soil as you can, because more soil means the tank keeps its soft, slightly acidic water for longer. Another point to make for this step is to lower the water level as low as you can. If your water level is too high for this step, any waste or particles from the new soil or old will enter the water column, causing major cloudiness to occur. To prevent that, I suggest removing enough water to make the new soil reach the surface. The next step is to replant the plants you removed back to its original location. The key to this step is to cut off the weaker bottom ends and only replant the healthy top ends of the plant. The bottom parts can sometimes be covered in algae or something similar, so that's why we cut them off. For aquarium plants, the tops are usually where they grow from, so not only are they usually the most healthy, but it also has the newest growth. So when you replant only the tops, you get that nice, healthy growth. On top of that, because you renewed the soil, the roots normally return to being very solid. After this procedure, with time, your plants will look like they are back to normal. For background plants, it's best to do this maintenance consistently to keep your aquascape looking fantastic for a long time to come. Even though this is a hassle to do, actively replacing the soil over time and replanting is better than relying on trimming alone for maintenance. Doing this periodically will let you enjoy your beautiful aquascape for much, much longer. The final step is to refill the tank, and you are done. For this video, I pulled out the background plants in the center of this aquascape. When you do this maintenance, it is inevitable that your water will be cloudy after you finish. But over time, the cloudiness will disappear, and the plants will redevelop a solid root structure. And with that, your plants should grow healthy once again. This is a view from the top of the tank. As you can see, I find replanting very densely to work the best. So that was the step-by-step on how to revive your dying background plants. I hope this video becomes a good resource for you to reference. So just like that, if you do this maintenance consistently, you will see your plants become healthy once again. So I hope this video will help you when you do this for your aquarium. Here at Aquashop WASABI, which I have been running for around 8 years now, I had a tank that was set up for around 4 to 5 years, in which I didn't add a single new plant since startup. The only thing I did was this replanting method for the 4 to 5 years that the tank was running. It was a 60 centimeter aquarium, but still, I have tested and demonstrated this method long term. Because I have used this method on an aquarium long term, I hope that you can trust that this is reliable information. So please do not worry when you try this on your aquarium. One final word, I always say this, but it is hard for me to answer every single comment on these YouTube videos. So if the same questions are asked many different times by different people, you might see my answer as a new video instead of a comment. Even though this is the case, please feel free to comment down below, because it does help me. If this video has helped you out at all, please leave a like and subscribe to the Aquashop WASABI Aquarium channel. This is the end of the video. Thank you.